Hi everyone, my name is Emily. I'm a third year English student here at the University of Nottingham. Today I'm going to be sharing my tips and advice on moving back home after living away at uni. Moving away to uni can make you a lot more independent and you get in certain routines and ways of life which can be thrown up in the air slightly when you move back home. Whatever that home is to you, whether it's with family, friends or alternative accommodation, I hope these tips might help. I think the first thing is respect. As cliche as it sounds, if you respect someone, they will hopefully respect you back. Moving back home is a big deal to you, but it probably is to the rest of your household as well. All the dynamics are going to be thrown up in the air. So whether that means you're now living with your parents who haven't had you around in a while, whether you're living with siblings who have become used to not having you around for a while, respecting each other, respecting each other's surroundings, properties and feelings is definitely the first step in trying to get back into a family or home routine. The next thing I think is to be patient. You might not suddenly get back the same dynamic or environment that you had before you left for uni. If you're like me and it's been 3 years, then a lot has changed. You know, people have changed, you've probably changed quite a lot as well. So have patience, that it might take a while to get back into the swing of things when you're back home. Along with patience, I think, is expectation. Try not to put too much expectation on having this ideal or perfect environment for you to go back to. For some people that really isn't the case. I'm very fortunate that I do have a loving home that I can come back to after uni, and I'm very privileged with that. But I think, especially with social media, there can be a lot of expectation and pressure. So I would say try not to put too much pressure on either you or your family or your housemates, whoever you're living with, for everything to be perfect all the time. The next bit of advice I have is to be selfish. Obviously not to the detriment of anyone else, and obviously it's great to be considerate and to be kind. I mean selfish in the terms of allowing yourself space and time to come to terms with your new environment. Put yourself first when you need to, whether that's putting your mental health first or recognising that you're going to need a while to adapt to certain situations, whether it's finding a space or a time in the day that is dedicated to you and looking after yourself, or having a bit of a pamper, or just looking after your headspace. I think that's really important, and hopefully it will be best for the entire household as well. Something which I think is really important is boundaries, whether they are for yourself or for the people you're living with. I think it's important to set them and also talk about them. You know, if there's something that's really winding you up to the point where you're trying to avoid seeing people, or you just feel really overwhelmed being back in the house, talk to people, be open, and perhaps set up some rules, or rule sounds too strict, but some sort of guidelines where people know where you stand with each other, you know what's going to push each other perhaps over the edge, you know when each other needs a minute on their own. So set up some boundaries for everyone else and for you as well. This is all part of being selfish for yourself. You know, work out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. Put those boundaries in place, and then it can help you feel a sense of control in a situation that perhaps you feel quite out of control. Next is to be flexible and try and perhaps implement some things into your home environment that you have done whilst you're away at uni. Whether that's you found you absolutely loved cooking or cleaning, I don't know, and so maybe once a week you cook a meal for your family or all of your friends. Try and be flexible and adapt to a new routine while still implementing things that you enjoyed whilst you're away at uni. To finish with, I asked my mum if she had any advice for parents and for students who are now living back together again after uni. She's had 2 children now go away to university and move back home, whether that is their own choice or not, whether it's out of their control. And her 2 main things were things which I've already touched upon, which were to be kind and to be understanding. If you've got those 2, you can't really go that wrong. So be kind to one another as much as you can be understanding of each other's situations. That's everything from me. I hope you're all well and that this can be helpful for some of you. Just know that you're not on your own if you're feeling sad about moving back home, if you're feeling happy about moving back home, if you're feeling guilty because you're sad or guilty because you're happy. I don't think there is a right or a wrong way to feel, so just accept what you're feeling, run with it, communicate as best as you can with other people, and that's a pretty good place to start. Thanks for watching. Be sure to give this video a like if you found it helpful, and subscribe to the University of Nottingham's YouTube channel. Bye!